Okay.
So life support is happily making money. Don't worry. You don't worry about that.
No, I have to worry. Those are the kind of clients I'm looking for.
I know.
Clients that are making money.
Yeah. It's making nice money.
What's up with your team, sir?
What is my what?
Your team.
Okay, please. Let's not say this on. Like, see the babe they are saying German, killing for. Please mention how. I don't like all this is. We'll just be angry. It's only BBC they can mention.
You get 10,000 naira. Isn't that incredible? Well, don't waste time now.
So I have concerns over that, the Codeine thing. As much as I think it's good that she told, okay, yeah, this is a different thing.
Yeah, so what's your concern?
Concern about Codeine. It's just that, yes, it's good that they're asking certain questions, but also costing Nigerian businesses quite heavily. Codeine, sweet Codeine. Emzor Pharmaceuticals one of the last remaining. That's okay, we'll talk about it.
Studio, Mike's up. It is 7:32 Lagos. Thanks for joining us on Freshly Pressed, and this is brought to you by MTN. Oh, by the way, we have interesting analysts in the house. Orji, it seems like I haven't seen you for 2 weeks.
Orji Uka, good morning. Welcome. Learned colleagues in the studio this morning.
And Adedunmade.
Yeah, good morning, Lagos. Good morning, guys. Orji, I hope no more football.
I'm fine. Okay, you one time played football and broke your legs. Sorry.
Find both of them up on Twitter at Orji Uka and at Adedunmade.
And you can find all of us up on YouTube right now. If you go over to youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos, you'll watch us streaming live as we jump into the first set of stories for this morning. Remember to tweet at us using the hashtag FreshlyPress981. And if you tweet at us as well, you'll see the rundown of the national news headlines so you can follow along and catch up on those stories online. Now, our first story, it brings a smile to my face. Maybe it shouldn't, but the headline reads from ThisDay newspaper: Buhari heads to London on a 4-day medical trip. This is following the recent controversy about his stopover on the way back from the United States of America. He stopped over for 2 days in London. At the time, his media and publicity special assistant, Fashola, had said, oh, it's a technical stop, completely normal. And now, well, in this story, they're telling us, yeah, well, he did also see his doctor at the time, who said he should come back just for a routine medical check. And he's going to be there for 4 days. They say he should be back on Saturday, May the 12th. He's leaving today. Over to you, Orji. What's your take on the story?
Okay, it's no longer news. The good part is they've come clean. Not completely, but they've come clean. Okay, the president is not well. No, has not been well for a while. So maybe he needs routine maintenance or checkup. We must hold him by the promises he made. Health is wealth, yes. But each time he travels out of the country for medical treatment, we must remind him that he made promises whilst running for office that he would not need to travel out for medical treatment. So that must be said at all times. Now, to his media handlers, why they find it difficult to say the truth is what I don't know. It is possible for you to be truthful to Nigerians, and as a matter of fact, at the end of the day, you will even attract sympathy. But when you start giving rooms for people to bring, what does technical stopover mean? Even in this story itself, the president has tweeted, I want to believe he tweeted, I will be traveling to the United Kingdom tomorrow to see my doctor at his request. How is that a business if it's your doctor's request? Is your doctor the president of Nigeria?
Well, I mean, you're saying how is that our business? It is our business, Orji,
no,
because people
my only problem is that part where he says at the doctor's request.
Yes.
I'm not talking about of course it's business to know what's wrong with him at every time. But to tell us it is a doctor's request. Secondly, Garba Shehu in his statement in fact says that the president had a meeting with his doctor. He used the word meeting, and that the doctor has asked the president to return for another meeting. You see, if you want to come clean, don't start giving people reasons. Like I said, we wish the president well. He says away for 4 days. We hope he's back after 4 days. hale and hearty. There's another word they like to use. Say he's is there something like strong and fiddle and all those things like that. Wish him the best, but we must also remind him at every point in time that on healthcare he's failed woefully.
I would apologize at this point. I was one of the naysayers. I was, trying to play devil's advocate and support him and say, the fact that he didn't say he was going for a medical trip, we shouldn't actually jump the gun and say.
Actually, I am going to say, without prejudice to all what he has said, why is he traveling? We need to know his medical history. We need to know what he's going to do.
Excuse me, his medical history is that he's an old man. So let's move on to the next story. That's it. Your grandparents would be getting as many medical. I don't know why we're still surprised. That's what's surprising to me. But we have to move on to our next story. Let us talk about the NCC, actually. So Adedunmade, I'm going to come to you for this one. The NCC has suspended the Copyright Society of Nigeria's license. This is in from the Punch newspaper in a rather, some would say dramatic turn of events, and some would say concerning turn of events. So Lagos, to catch you up on the story, the Nigerian Copyright Commission on Monday announced the suspension of the operating license of the Copyright Society of Nigeria, otherwise known as COSON, as a collective management organization for music and sound recordings. Now, they're saying that this was necessary because there was a failure of COSON to carry out directives of commission, which they wrote in a letter dated February earlier on this year. They're saying henceforth COSON should desist from negotiating and granting copyright licenses. That was at the time. They should have desisted from collecting royalty fees on behalf of copyright owners. And, without going into too much detail and letting you go to Adedunmade, there's been a lot of drama around COSON since the inception. Let's not just say in recent times. What's your take on this story?
Yes, most especially the recent one, which is not this one, that's the one prior to this one, is the issue of leadership, because there's been a leadership tussle kind of, which started late last year. What happened was there was a chairman, and there were some reports of misconducts levied against that chairman, and he was told to give a response to it to the board of directors. However, he was not able to give a good should I say defense, because the allegations bordered on appropriation of funds, getting contracts to shell companies and things like that, using his cronies, and he was not able to defend it well, so he was removed. Now, another chairman was appointed that day by the board. However, now this outgoing chairman, the one that was removed, now came back on the day of the annual general meeting, and there was now another decision made on that day that the board did not have the powers to remove the chairman, so they reinstated him. They removed some directors, and now that has found them in court. So they've been in court back and forth for that for so long now, and that in itself has led to the politicization of the whole, should I say, the whole COSON as it is, because as it is now, they are focused more on politics than on getting the job done. So now, after that fiasco, we are now here with the current one, which is that their license has been suspended. Now, this might border on issues with regard to transparency, accountability, and that might be the reasons why they have been suspended now. But however, I want us to look at it from the option of the industry player, that is the artist out there right now, and how the artist must feel at this time, because they are not sure of how. I don't think any modalities or have been prepared on how they can secure their rights or how they can get any monies that has been with COSON for so long. The truth is that COSON has tried in the past, let's say 5 to 6 years, in order to fully represent the artists that they have under their purview. Although there's also been allegations that they've been collecting rights on behalf of artists that are not so that alone is some problem. But what I would just like to see is less politics and more work, because the entertainment industry, at this time has so much to offer Nigerians, and the rights particularly of these artists need to be protected. So rather than focus on politics, I'd rather see them doing some more work with regard to strengthening the industry and also the rights of the industry players.
I would like to know what you think the impact would be on the Nigerian music industry, considering that there is no body, as we understand, that operates in this capacity that COSON has attempted to operate in. And what does that mean for artists being able to get their rights as far as they're due? Because you have a number of them complaining about being shortchanged by larger corporations.
Yeah, there's always been the issue of being shortchanged. There's always been the issue of non-remittance, and now at least there was a body that you could even ask ask your rights from. But now there's even no one. So I think what we should do now is, okay, I think the government now wants to take away that sole right that was in the hands of COSON, and maybe they want to make I think there's this people MSCN, I think they want to make those guys to should I say a counterpart of COSON. So if that's what if they are going to ensure that we have more than one collective body that is representing the interests of parties, then great. I just want to see them do it speedily and not put the lives of people at risk, basically.
All right, thank you very much for that. We do have to move on very quickly. Orji, coming back to you now, let's talk about Sweet Sweet Codeine. That was a documentary by Rona J. Meyer that was put up on the BBC that people have been talking about endlessly. But the headline we're taking now comes in from the Punch newspaper. Codeine syrup, NAFDAC shuts Emzor and 2 others. So that's the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. Well, they've shut Key Standard Pharmaceutical Limited, Bioraj Pharmaceutical Limited, and Emzor Pharmaceutical Limited. They're saying due to insufficient evidence gathered and apparent resistance to provide needed documents during their inspection of the 2nd of May, they've taken down this to shut down all the product lines of the 3 companies that I mentioned earlier on. Now, what's your take on this, Orji? Bearing in mind that a lot of these are indigenous companies, it is somewhat harmful to the few that are out there still manufacturing local drugs, because this is not just Codeine now we're seeing shut down, this is everything.
I think these are extreme measures,
Okay.
to be honest. I may be wrong, but I think they're extreme measures. You don't cut your nose to spite your face. Yes, the documentary was well done.
Yes.
Yes, it's drawn attention to an area of our life that has been an issue. It's been talked about for a while now, but it's really brought it to the fore, and then everyone's eye have opened, and particularly now that appear to have awoken from their dogmatic slumber. But why do you now shut down 3? Yes, I've seen the explanation here that they tried to carry out investigation and then the company did not cooperate. I'm sure there are other ways. Like you said, they don't only produce Codeine. So what happens to the other? We already have issues that healthcare delivery or health sector as a whole. Like,
Yes.
shutting down.
We're looking at the
What happens to
Jesus
workers?
strike that's still happening at the moment as well.
What happens to the workers there? So I don't get there are better ways to go about this. Shutting down, I don't think is the best way. If I hope that the shutdown is maybe for a day, and I expect that again that also draws up the issue of impunity. The companies involved, I don't know why, if it's true from what NAFDAC is saying, why they would not want to cooperate. Particularly when you've seen such a documentary like this, you should promise transparency and give the assistance to the law enforcement agents to ensure that they carry out.
And this is the question I was going to ask, because now we only have really NAFDAC's word for this at the moment, where they're saying they resisted. How did they resist? May 2nd to now, which is the 8th of May, it's not a very long time.
We've had weekends in between.
Exactly. So how quickly would they have been able to amass some of the documentation that NAFDAC is requiring? Should organizations like NAFDAC be carrying out measures like this that feel punitive almost, or should it not be a case of trying to help out overall the industry?
I completely agree with you. Like I said, that was the first thing I said, that this appeared to me as extreme measures. But I also need to appeal to Rona. There are also other aspects of our life that we need her to draw attention to. Please carry out more documentation. Show us those who are receiving drips under the tree. Show us people who are carrying out who are taught in uncompleted buildings, and go and talk about National Stadium Lagos. If I can talk about all aspects, we are not well.
That's okay, Runa. Thank you very much for that documentary. If you haven't seen it, it's called Sweet Sweet Codeine. See if you can. Let's move on now. But staying with you, Orji, very quickly from the Guardian newspaper, freight forwarders threaten a showdown over illegal fee by terminal operator. We've taken that story from the Guardian newspaper. Again, send us your thoughts using the hashtag freshlypressed981 on Twitter, or send us messages to our WhatsApp number. We already tweeted that to you earlier on. Now, we're looking at the Nigerian Ports Authority, who are being accused, essentially, via the Port and Terminal Multi-Services Limited. So the PTML are being accused of charging an illegal fee to freighters and forwarders. And it is the National Association of Government-Approved Freight Forwarders that are accusing this. They're saying, why are you making us pay this money? However, companies on the other end of the port have said, this is pretty much standard practice. This is a one-off fee. It's just 10,000 naira. When you renew it, you don't have to pay additional fees. What's your take on this, Orji?
Well, you've already accurately summarized it. So it's a conflict between two sides. The interesting thing is that MPA has intervened and according to them, they are currently carrying out investigation. All we need to do is hold on and hope that the investigations are properly conducted and it yields results in the sense of having this issue resolved. But I also need to mention the part of the PTM, that's the Port and Terminal Multi-Services Limited, who have said that, like you say, these are standard fees, and what they've done, according to them, is to just receive that one-off fee, which according to them is in line with the to facilitate ease of doing business policy of the federal government. That as opposed to every time you come in there, they ask you all manner of documentation. Bring this, bring that.
Document, yes.
It's just one of. So once you do the proper registration, pay the fee. All into this to show that card.
Bring your card.
So
Seems straightforward on the surface of things.
But again, we can never get everything from the post like this. So it's over to MP.
No smoke without fire.
On WhatsApp, we have this message from Chris. He says, please do not blame PNB's media handlers. They do the master's bidding. That's all. That's from Chris. I do what I said. As far as I'm concerned, PNB should travel abroad for medical issues, as cabal in the corridor of power can do anything. I commend the presidents from Benga. I commend the president's spokespersons for coming clean this time around on the reason for the president's trip abroad. Thank goodness that they are not giving us cock and bull stories that will insult our collective sensibilities. The president is traveling to the UK to see his doctors. That is the important discussion here. Whether the visit the doctors at the doctor's request or his is absolutely not an issue.
I will just say that the media handlers could do a better job of giving out the information first before there's controversy around it. That's how to handle certain press releases.
Samuel from Lekki says, so up till now, the Aso Villa Hospital and National Hospital in Abuja cannot take care of our president and his family members. What makes me angry is the fact that they lie about it. It's such a shame. All right, we'll go to this next story from Guardian. CCT chairman faces contempt of court charges. There's drama in the house. Now, very serious issues here. The chairman of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, Danladi Yakubu Umar, may be charged for contempt of court today, following a notice of consequence of disobedience to order of court filed against him by one Francis Oga. So apparently, the National Industrial Court had ruled in 2005 that Oga be reinstated, and he filed a suit in 2018, April 10th precisely, and attached a reminder of that earlier application titled Notification of, and demanded for compliance with the judgment. And apparently the court has asked that in the 13-year-long legal battle, that all his salaries from 2005 till date be paid, and all his entitlements as well. Adedunmade, what's your take on this?
Well, the word that comes to my mind here is impunity, really, because when you don't obey a court order, you are telling Nigerians that, okay, you are bigger than a court, especially when it's not been stated that they have what we call rejected the decision of the court and appealed it, but they have not done so. They've just laid quiet till now. And it's very, very offensive to see that a judge, because his position is also as a judge is not respecting court orders. So if he's not respecting the court orders of other courts, how would he expect other people to respect the decisions of his own court? Although that is not how it works. You always have to respect the decision of a court, and it's very sad because this is where the impunity flows from. When people in government say they cannot or they would not obey court orders, then what is left for the common Nigerians? Because you see, the court serves as the only hope for the common Nigerian to seek relief. And when you get relief in court and you cannot execute that relief, you cannot get that relief, that means you're going to, well, we've already lost hope in the court, but that means you're going to resolve to use other means to get that relief, which sometimes will border on violence or other unholy acts, which may not be appreciated by the general public. So the matter is going to come up today in court. It's going to be interesting to see if he's actually going to be found guilty. I know that they will not reach a general conclusion today. There will always be an adjournment for something.
Also touch on that the similar drama actually is going on in Code of Conduct Bureau. This time around affecting the former acting secretary of the Bureau, Mrs. Kolawole. She had voluntarily retired, and a few months later she came back in saying that she was her suspension was lifted. She was suspended earlier by the board for offenses ranging from serious misconduct and abuse of office. Now she's back in the office, apparently held by somebody else, and there seems to be a clash of interest.
Well, in one sentence, all I just said, you voluntarily retired now. Please just go home and continue your retirement. Simple.
Okay,
All right,
we've got
let's quickly move
a
on.
few messages very quickly. This is in from Jay Isado up on WhatsApp. He says, "Good morning. I think we should be less concerned about our president's trip for treatment abroad and more concerned about the absence of world-class hospitals after so many years as a nation." True.
Oh, wow.
Henry Manuel says the president should enjoy the meeting with his doctor, willing to put his medical records out there. If you want ultimate privacy, please don't desire public office. Very interesting. While we've got more messages coming in on Twitter with that hashtag freshlypressed981, Okonkwo Samuel was first in 14 minutes ago. He said, "It's a shame that in 3 years the so-called achievement of Buhari has not reached the building of a new or equipping existing hospitals to treat the president and his family members. I think the technical stopover in London was to buy a hospital card," he says. Interesting. While Okonkwo Samuel comes back to say, "Why is NAFDAC closing down Emzor and others over the Codeine investigation? They should be fined instead. This is not a case of fake products. What happens to the employees who are not at fault?" And Flexmaster Nate up on Twitter also says, "NAFDAC can shut down only the codeine production lines in the respective companies. I doubt they will order a complete shutdown which include products which are not associated with the ABA shutdown or the product lines." But let's carry on.
Keep your messages coming in with that same hashtag freshlypressed981. The next story is this day. Federal government will resolve power distribution troubles before year end. Fashola assures 2018 were in May. So looking into this story, Adedunmade, I want you to, hone in on this. Now, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Raji Fashola, has said that the federal government was working out measures that would improve the distribution capacities of the 11 electricity distribution companies in Nigeria's power sector. And this is on the heels of the inauguration of finally confirmed head, or really the director of the new chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. That's Professor James Momo. Could this be something we should be optimistic about by December 2018? How possible?
Yeah.
You started saying statement. Yeah, I don't see it.
It's true, because it's quite frustrating that we only get promises but we hardly get results. So now that we're getting another promise, why should we be so ecstatic? I don't believe that we're going to see results. I would rather see results than you come and tell us, okay, we did all this just to get you this result. But when you're talking about plans, come on, Nigeria is good with planning. Nigeria is good with
great planners.
Yeah, so we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. It's this thing that he's saying. They said that they were going to do it so many years ago. But let's just assume that because of the problem that arose from the privatization of the industry, that there were some things that they had to address. Now, these issues have to do with governance and operations as well. Governance, he has reported now, has been solved with the appointment of the chairman, but operations, we still have a major problems with operations. Now, we are generating 7,000, but we cannot transmit all 7,000. So we need to follow up on our transmission capacity. He has said that they are doing that, which is actually very good. Then we
as
also,
part of the ERGP.
Yeah, and we also have the issues of what I'll call mini grids, because they've stated here that we have a couple, especially located in markets, which is actually great. But I would like to see that increase to some certain kinds of zones, for instance, free trade zones located all over the country. If these people, or if this class of persons are given free electricity, and or the tax and the burden of getting power is reduced on them, then we can see more profitability for people in that sector. Now, mini grids should also not be focused on commercial purposes. We should also have residential purposes factored in as well, because we cannot all just continue to open on the national grid. It's not enough. We need to try and build more smaller grids in different parts of the country, so that collectively all this can work for the should I say, for the benefit of everybody. You see, I was listening to Fela Dorothy and they were saying something about, oh, that is doing the last the platform thing. I was very like, oh, that we're gonna have that our children are gonna have a Nigeria where there will be light. It's not gonna happen in the next few years.
Well, hopefully, with the economic recovery and growth plan, that would come into effect.
Man doesn't have faith.
Man, it's Nigeria.
Optimism, guys, optimism. Now, this day is next. Waste infrastructure development in Lagos defies odds. Now, we've heard about Visionscape. We've heard about the government's plan in Lagos to end this waste crisis. Now, efforts by the Lagos state government to find a lasting solution, the paper says, to the waste management crisis in the state does not seem to be yielding much results, as Some aggrieved members of the Association of Waste Management or Managers of Nigeria have refused to back down or compromise their demands. They said we reached this stalemate because they're threatening to undermine the advancement of the state government's plan that they made since last year with the Environmental Management and Protection Bill that was passed into law. Orji, we've all watched Visionscape, that has been described as a multinational waste management company. People have not been really impressed lately. Now, the state governor, Governor Akin Ambode, is very optimistic. He has the belief that the waste business has a great potential to generate over 10 billion a year. Is this feasible?
I tried hard, although unsuccessfully, to convince Folu downstairs that this story was nothing but propaganda by the Lagos state government. So the story, the central point of this story is that, and it's well captured in the first paragraph, that Lagos state government has put in a lot of efforts to find a long-lasting solution to waste management issue in Lagos. And that so far,
but as I said downstairs, are we seeing results?
No, we're not. That's what I'm saying. It's a failed propaganda because they've said it that the reason why they have not succeeded or why the efforts have not yielded results, because they admit they've not yielded results, because the waste managers, Association of Waste Managers of Nigeria, AWAM, have refused to back down or compromise their demands. They've just essentially pushed the blame to those waste managers who, as far as Lagosians are concerned, were even doing a better job before now. Yes, it was more like an informal sector. Yes, they didn't have all those formal structures.
But we're seeing refuse cleared daily.
Exactly.
We're seeing these minimal results every day.
All we've seen is beautification. All we've seen is propaganda by Lagos state government taking pictures and saying Lagos is not clean. They'll take a picture of the part that is clean and leave the part that is not clean and all that. So there's a lot of issues, and then there's been that question of the constitutionality of passing a law to recognize a private company, which for up to now hasn't been taken care of. Well, the other part is that the way Lagos state government is seeing it, that they want it to be, they are looking at the huge economic potential of it, but like we say, we've not seen results yet.
So finally, we touch on this story from Premium Times, Birnin Gwari Massacre, what we're doing to end Kaduna, Benue, Taraba violence. So the President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the establishment of a new battalion of the Nigerian Army, as well as a new police area command in Birnin Gwari local government area. Adedunmade, let's hone in on this story. Really, what's the takeaway from this?
Okay, great news. The introductions of the new commands, and yeah, that's great. But the existing commands, was there ever a time where they said there were no attacks in their location because there was a command there?
Yes, there was.
All the time.
We do have that. This is my point. In Kaduna, right? We've seen relative short periods of peace, but we keep seeing the violence recurring, which is the concern, right? Why are they recurring? Because when there are certain battalions in certain places, it does reduce the violence. In certain cases, it quells it, at least for periods of time. But they keep recurring.
Okay, but they keep recurring. That is the key word, because I don't believe that establishing them is an all-inclusive solution to what needs to be done. Now, I would like to just see two things done. One, I would like to see more investment in tech. I've said this so many times before. We are using old weapons to fight new enemies or new wars. So I'd like to see us invest in tech. We're buying choppers, that's great, but we need to buy drones as well, because sometimes these drones can do better than what the choppers can do. Now, however, that being said, the second line of my argument is going to be a bit controversial. I want to see some certain states start to look at their House of Assembly to pass laws that say people can protect themselves.
That's a dangerous area to skirt.
Like I said, it's going to be controversial, but it needs to be done.
Let's move on. I still hold the argument that no one sees a person coming to attack them and says, no, my law says don't defend yourself. I don't think there's any law that prohibits you from doing that. But I understand the point you're making.
If you have a gun, you can.
For time reasons, though, we aren't done with Freshly Pressed for this morning. I will round up with a couple of messages very quickly. Son of Awani, that's at Cardi puts up this message on Twitter saying Fashola wasn't much of a talker when he was governor, but his work wouldn't stop speaking for him then. So he should just get to work now and stop promising. Let's see his work do the talking. Very interesting. While Andy Ajuda sends in a message saying, I can't understand why Governor Ambode is forcing Visionscape on Lagos. It is not working. Again, Visionscape say they've taken a different role so far. Now they're only involved in infrastructure, and there are other waste management companies that are involved, but Lagos State, we would still like clarification on the waste management situation in Lagos. While up on WhatsApp, Chief Odi says, in principle, why is the president receiving medical treatment abroad? Economically and ethically wrong. Indeed. And finally, Adeswa says, honestly, with all the reports on misconduct, I shudder to think about how much we are losing. All right, on that note, we are officially over time.
Coming up next at 8:15, we go into the world of entertainment inside of Grapevine. Yes, 981. That's the hashtag. Join us with on Twitter. Good morning.
The headlines.
Thanks, guys.
So we went over time.
Yeah, we're a minute and 25 seconds.
I'm a 30.
It's just because we don't have the time check. So.
National current affairs.